Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Networking with Nathaniel. This is episode 31, and I have the pleasure of being here with Chris Drumm from Dallas, Texas. Thanks for being here, Chris. Chris is from, like I said, from Dallas, Texas, originally from Louisiana, I believe you mentioned.
Yep,
Uh,
yep.
he's he's been in real estate for a little bit now. Been in Gator for about 6 months as a Gator lender. Oh, I forgot to mention has a one daughter, right? An adult daughter. He mentioned he's an old man at this point.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
right.
believe it, but that is what he said. It's not my words; those are your words, right, Chris?
That's correct. That's
Uh,
correct.
Chris is concerned that he's going to be drab here on this podcast, but I don't think so. This is the first time Chris and I have met, and I from the 5 minutes that we've talked already, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we're going to share some laughs. I think we're going to learn some great things from this gentleman here on the other side of the screen. But first off, I appreciate you being here, man. Thanks for joining me. How are you doing today on this fine
I'm
afternoon?
doing great. Doing great. Thanks, Nathaniel. Appreciate you having the time for me and spending some time with me. And I'm just happy to be here. Any day you wake up and you put your feet on the ground is a good day. That's how I look at it. So
That's it. That's exactly how I like to start my day, actually. Thank you for waking
exactly.
up again today. It is a blessing. But I like to
Amen.
start these as we talked about, just kind of what keeps you busy on a day-to-day basis. What are you working on? And then we're gonna go from there.
Sure, sure, sure. I do have a group of people that I work with on a regular basis. I work with a local group of wholesalers where it's a team, and I've been talking with agents. I've been doing direct to agent calling, and we've been going across a couple of different markets. We ventured into South Carolina recently. The list was good. There were some problems with some of the listings, but the list was good. So I made some inroads with a couple of agents, which was nice. I need to follow up with some of them, but we're looking at Dallas Fort Worth as part of the major market, and Austin, Houston. So on a daily basis, I'm trying to make as many calls as I can. And I'm also looking at working to help people with their day-to-day needs for Gator stuff, as a connector, as a lender, EMD, double close. I try and stay away from PML, although I get sucked in every once in a while. So I'm in for a long-term PML, a deal that I found personally compelling. So I jumped in with that. I'm also doing, I mentioned the connector piece. So if people need anything from me, they can come to me and I can help them find pieces. I try and be the puzzle master, get people connected where they may not know somebody in sub two, or they may not know somebody in South Carolina or in Dallas Fort Worth or in Florida or something like that. Whereas, as you well know, being in another of Pace's groups, sub two, you have connections all across the US. And in Gator, we have connections in both sub two and in Gator. So we've got a lot of different connections as well. And I do have a bunch of wholesalers that I talk to in Louisiana and Texas, in Georgia. So, it's a bunch of different stuff. So the day kind of keeps me busy. And then, of course, you get squirreled, right? On a daily basis. And so time kind of spins out. Um, and I apologize for the long pause, but some of the things that I do specifically for me. Um, One of which is I take a lot of time and I'm intentional with my daily prayers. I'm intentional with talking with Jesus, and that's who I am. I was not a particularly pleasant person to be around as a young man, and that's I, I think I've done a much better job growing into myself, and I I don't know. I'm just kind of stunned at the 180 that I made from where I came. Um, and I can't say I'm proud of myself because it's not me. It's certainly a higher power. It's just I had nothing to do with it. So it's just making the step, making the connection.
I I feel where you're coming from with the I had nothing to do with it, but I want to say you did, and we're gonna just go off the rail here.
Yeah. No, and
I'm
that,
in, right?
yeah,
You had to open your heart. If you don't open
yes,
your heart up and he doesn't come, you don't allow him in. So that you had that to do with it at least, right?
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for
I
sure, for sure.
I wouldn't normally derail the real estate side of things
Yeah,
this early in the but I am curious, and if it's not something you're comfortable with or you don't even have an answer, feel free to just say.
sure.
Um, you mentioned, I wasn't a very pleasant person growing up, in my younger was there something that switched? Like, was it you hit bottom or you met the one and was there a flip, a switch that
That's
switched?
a fantastic question. We all have things and stuff in our background that we're probably not so proud of that we did. We we were mistreated. We mistreated others. We had bad relationships. All of these things in our background, right? Um, because we're human. At some point, I just looked at my life and I went, there has to be a different way. There's got to be a better way to do things. I was drinking too much. I had a whole lot of time away from my family. I had a whole lot of not my current family. I mean, growing up as a young person, my family, my parents, my extended family, and even the friends that I had, I knew were not good for me. And I knew that the people that I was interested in were interested in me for the wrong reasons. So when, for whatever reason, whether it was spiritual or whatever it was, it kind of eats at you for a while, I think. And at some point, maybe years, maybe weeks, maybe days later, it depends on the person, I think. And for me, it took a long time. Um, One makes the decision personally, based on the feeling, based on the knowledge, based on a lot of different things. And it turns into, what am I doing? Where am I going? Why is it taking so long to get out of school, have this horrible job, be at the bottom of whatever? And why am I a mess? And these questions are burdensome, and they're in the back of your mind, maybe not yours, but one's mind. And at some point, a decision has to be made. And it's tough. Um, Fork in the road, go straight or take the other fork. So yeah, I mean, I don't, to answer your specific question, I don't know that it was one specific thing. It was just a whole lot of different things.
Yeah, just the culmination kind of
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you brought up in the church at all?
No,
Like, yeah. So
not really.
how did
No.
that come about? How did you end up finding?
And that's another good question. I mean, it wasn't like no spirituality, no God, no nothing. You know, grandmother could throw a Bible verse at you from a mile away, which was fine, and that was good. And I didn't resent her for that, and I loved her very much for that, actually. I did go with my grandparents to church on a semi-regular basis as a young boy. I didn't dislike it. My parents did the best that they could. And that's the truth with what they had. Um, every family to some degree is dysfunctional. Others are more dysfunctional than others. And the bottom line, I think, for my family was that, you know, there's a culmination of a lot of things. And they started out when I was little and tried to be the parents that brought me to church, that brought me to Sunday school, that helped me to learn. Um, but that wore off relatively quickly. And so I didn't grow up in the church. So it wasn't that there was no God, there was no Jesus. Of course, there was God, there was Jesus, and there was belief, but it just fell by the wayside. You know, say your prayers, you know, God, you know, oh, God is great, God is good, right? But now I lay me down to sleep, those things when you're a little kid. Um, but then as life goes on, you know, people tend to forget about God as they're growing up if they're not in that environment.
Yeah, it's funny. You kind of touched a little bit on my experience, and I was losing my way coming out of high school and falling in with the wrong crowd. And the Marine Corps happened to me. And I thought at the time, man, this is going to point me back. And geez, it did not. I saw some things and did some things, and I got deeper and deeper into the dark, and I'm still crawling my way out. Blessed that
And
blessed that I have the circle of believers that I do, and I'm just attracting it now. Like, you and I are talking now. It seems like every conversation I have is leading back into faith, and it's intertwined. Um, it's a part of our
absolutely.
lives. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that with me, Chris. Let's get back
Yeah.
to real estate. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
that's
Now
what the
that we've
people are here
gotten
to hear.
squirreled,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. No, you had mentioned that before joining the Gator Tribe, you had done a couple deals, a couple of real estate deals. What did those kind of look like?
Yeah, so my wife and I wanted to have a second property, and yeah, we did. And we were going to. We had these grand dreams. This was going to be our retirement home. We were going to maybe even rent it out. We're going to do like a VRBO kind of thing. And um, well, the covenant in the place didn't allow us to do that, of course. So now what? Um, well, I mean, that didn't stop us from going to, this is in East Texas. So, and that's probably about 3 hours-ish from where we live. And it didn't stop us from going. This is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous area. Didn't stop us from going and visiting and spending time there and detracting from it. So we invested, we put, I don't know, like 35% down. So we had a decent amount of equity in. And then we both had essentially the same career path, uh, problems, issues, concerns, whatever. Like, oh, well, business went public, sold, and we're going to have some rocky road ahead. So we said, okay, well, we need to look at liquidating and managing out the property, since we're not going to be able to really rent it out anyway. So we're going to do that. Well, then COVID hits. Oh, fantastic. Okay. Well, the good news is COVID hits and everybody wants to buy a bigger, better property. Okay, cool. So we go and the property is on the market for a very short period of time. So a lot of what I'm learning there and applying now. Real estate agents, no offense to real estate agents, but a lot of real estate agents who had even been in the business for a long time didn't, they're trying to get paid. I mean, I get that. That's their job. They didn't know how to comp the property properly. They're using stuff outside of our subdivision, which is a gated subdivision. And I'm telling them, I don't really have much experience at this point in time, but I'm telling them, you can't go outside of these boundaries. It just doesn't make sense. And so all of this stuff. And anyway, long story short, we get to the point where there we draw up the contract and we had a buyer who comes in and then cancels on the property.
Happens, but that's always
Yeah. Well, I mean, the good news is it was a cash buyer. Like, okay, well, at least we're getting more than we anticipated. We were excited. Well, they lost their deposit. And like, no, I'm not getting Texas is a mutual release state. I'm like, no, they're not getting their money back. No
yeah,
way.
strong as a law.
So the woman lost her deposit. And then I went back to the agent and I said, okay, here's the deal. I'm happy to do cash, finance, whatever. It doesn't make any difference. I just want to ensure that we're getting actual, real, and true buyers. So we're not doing 1%. We're doing 5%. So that's what I'm going to insist on. So if somebody comes in with a 5% earnest money deposit, then we'll accept an offer. Sure enough, as soon as he puts it on MLS, literally within minutes, we got a 5% contingent EMD. And like, hey, guess what, Chris? We got a, like, all right, that was fine. All cash, and it was actually higher than the other offer. Well,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh,
So anyway, that was one. And we had another property that when my mother passed away, I inherited. We had to essentially do a fix and flip on that. And that was my poor mother. You've heard of cat ladies, you've heard of hoarders. She wasn't a cat lady, but she brought everything from Louisiana to Texas. I don't know why. I haven't the slightest idea why. She lived in like a 2,000 square foot house in Louisiana, and she bought like a 1,200 square foot house here. I have no idea how she fit. I still don't know how she fit it. And I had to clean all out. Like, woman, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm still agitated. You're dead. Now I've got to clean out all this crap from the house. And then on top of that, I've got to fix the house that you had neglected for 15 years. Like, come on. So yeah, but we put in some we barely broke even on that because well, I mean, we made money, but with that came out of pocket to fix the house.
oh,
So
right. Yeah, well, so it sounds like you kind of were an accidental investor to start.
exactly.
Kind of how
Exactly.
we got started as well. We bought a house in Oklahoma that we were gonna fix up and move into. It was kind of like starter dream house, like 7 acres, all this land, and then my wife got a job about an hour and 20 minutes away. like within a week of us
Oh,
getting into this thing, like, oh, okay, so I guess this is going to be a rental house or something. We figured it out, but yeah, it's fun to be an accidental investor. And then you go, and then you get a taste of it, and you go, oh, it's going to be
yeah,
something. Yeah, it's gonna be
yeah.
something. Yeah, so I wanted to ask you to go way back to how we started. You're making calls for direct to agent. You're doing direct to agent. How many hours a day, and how many like calls do you or conversations do you kind of typically get in those hours?
Um, calls, I'm trying to make at least 10 per day, so usually roughly an hour.
Okay.
Um, I will try and do 2 hours if I can. But like I said, we got a whole lot of other things that
Yeah.
I'm doing as well. Um, and conversation wise, if I get an agent on the phone, I approach it as if, because I mean, although I'm wholesaling it, I'm still the buyer,
Mm,
right? So I'm the buyer. I'm going to buy the house. My demeanor is, hey, I'm interested in your house. I'm going to buy you the house that you have listed. You're going to take some time to talk to me. Do you have time now? Right. The conversation usually is pretty easy based on that. And the questions that I have are, you're one of those sub two people. I'm like, well, I mean, I can certainly do sub two, but I don't have to. So it's usually just kind of like one of those one off, brush off kind of things. So the conversation can go on.
right.
Um, and if it is, it's about building trust. It's about building a relationship. So, okay, well, have you talked to them about sub two? And yeah, about half the time the answer is no. And the other half of the time it's, well, yeah, they don't want to do that. Oh, okay. So you talk to them about it, and the answer for this one is no. Well, okay, that's fantastic. I might not be a buyer for this house. Do you work with agents? I'm not sorry. Do you work with investors? Well, yeah, well, that's great. Can we work together on something in the future? Can I send you my information? Can we stay in contact? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, asking for permission is a great thing.
Right.
You're just bringing those walls and guards down, and you have a good demeanor about you, and so I could see that you're kind of putting people at ease when you're on the phone with them and they're not going, "Oh, this guy's just trying to make a low ball. He's just wasting my time." Because that's what these agents are getting inundated with calls these days, right? So
Right.
you gotta get right in there in these conversations and just bring the walls down, bring those defenses down. And you can't always do it. Some people are just gonna have their defenses up and they're just gonna try to get you off the phone as quick as they can. That's just
Well, for sure, for sure. Right. I had one hang up on me yesterday. She said, "Well, you're doing the sub two thing." I said, "Well, I can." However, and she, okay. I was about to call her back. I'm like,
yeah,
she doesn't want to talk to
it's
me.
toss up. Yeah.
I mean, it was that rude, but
Yeah.
okay, it's fine.
So you're doing an hour, 2 hours some days,
Yeah.
making calls direct to agents, and then you're spending how much time a day looking at deals for Gator, you're connecting as well. So you got to be doing networking with other people. So you're spending time on the phones. What is the rest of that kind of time?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of that is through Facebook. A lot of that is, direct message. A lot of that is on going to meetups. And unfortunately, for part of this year, I just kind of got back on my feet again because I was sick for quite a while. But um, I've got to meet up tonight. I'll be out for quite some time. Then later on in the week, I'll have one tomorrow afternoon. And I'm going outside of the traditional sub two Gator groups. And I've met a couple of different people, going to, luncheon in the area, meet up in the area that aren't necessarily even real estate stuff, but just going outside of that and putting myself out there. And, if that turns into something, that's fantastic. So I don't know how, am I doing 80 hours a week doing this? No, I'm not. I'm not getting up like some people do at 3 o'clock in the morning and doing training and following up with voice memos and that kind of stuff. But uh, I'm doing a minimum of 35 to 40 hours a week. And to be frank, I'm not seeing a huge return right now, but I know that the trajectory is there to, you have to have the foundation laid and then you put up the walls and then you put up the roof, right? That's basically what you do. And then you do everything on the inside. So foundation's laid, we're putting up the walls, we're going to put up the roof, and then we're going to do the stuff on the inside. At some point, the return's going to be there so you can actually sell the house.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm good. I mean,
Nice real estate analogy here, Chris. I like it.
so I think I'm good based on that, and I'm just happy to be able to meet the people I'm meeting. If it takes me longer, that's fine because I mentioned before that a lot of the things that I do for me, right? I take time in the day to be able to prepare myself, and my daughter's out of the house. I spend time with my wife. We still hang out together. We've been married for 30 years, so I mean, I am an old guy. We did get married young, but we're still kind of old, and we still like each other.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so it's still it's nice to be able to hang out together, right? Pay says go out and have a date night, go out and do that. Our date night's kind of stupid. We go to the grocery store, we'll get something to eat, but it's something that we do, right? Those kind of things. So
I want I want to ask you about your lending criteria, what you're kind of looking for. But before you mentioned that some of these meetups that you're doing are like non-real estate related. Can you give me like an example of what that might be? Like,
yeah, so there's a gentleman I met not too long ago who has he's got a small group that he formed in North Texas, and I'll be going to he hosts a luncheon on Tuesdays. I'll be going for the second time tomorrow to this luncheon. I think he's purposefully going to kind of as a connector role, just meet and grow his group in the best way that he can to get people to sort of like I mentioned before, the puzzle master, right? That's how he sees himself as a connector. And he will try, now that he knows that he has one or two people in real estate, he'll try and branch out and see if he can get some more people in real estate in the group. He's got a couple of people in finance, so he tries to get a couple more people in finance. He's got some people in staffing. He tries to get people in staffing. Got people in, you know, I don't know, something else. And yeah, like I said, I only went one other time, but that kind of stuff. So it's an exponential growth model for him. I don't see how he's actually going to quote unquote make money unless he sells something at some point. But that's fine and that's good. And I'm just glad to be able to meet some people, and at some point maybe we'll be able to do some kind of deal at some point.
yeah, you've got a lot of other people that you can reach into their quote unquote like pocket or world and
Correct.
other ventures that
Correct. Yeah.
we're all thinking real estate, and sometimes you need to go listen to a veterinarian to go, oh, I never thought of that. I
Yeah,
can
the veterinarian might have $100,000 that's not working for him, right?
exactly, yeah. What are, you mentioned you're not really looking to be like a private money lender, even though you've done that and are currently doing. a deal there, but like, what does a typical Gator deal look like for you, time wise, kind of return wise, window of uh, outlay? I had a
Capital outlay,
yeah,
yeah.
capital. There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Capital investment.
Yeah, so I think it depends on the person. For me, I'm comfortable with, up to 15, 20, 25,000 bucks, up to 12 months if the deal's right, right? But it that could change tomorrow. It just depends. It depends on market. It depends on the investor. It depends on the borrower. It depends on a lot of things. I'm not trying to be cagey. It really
Oh
just
yeah,
depends on a lot of things. As far as EMD, EMD's similar. EMD and double close are similar. Um, the issues there, you still have to vet the deal. You got to make sure that the deal is going to be good. But basically, if it's a decent deal, EMD is going to be repaid once a wholesaler finds or you find a buyer for the wholesaler, and you can figure out terms based on that. And there are some other ways to help find the money, and it doesn't even have to be my money. So that's another benefit of being in Gator.
yeah,
So as far as percentages or dollar amounts, again, that just depends on the deal. So if you were to say, "Hey, Chris, it's Nathaniel. I'm looking at this deal and I need $5,000 for EMD and I need it by tomorrow." What kind of terms are you expecting? Well, Nathaniel, what's it going to be worth to you? Yeah. So it just kind of depends on where we are, what kind of deal it is, and do you have your contracts A to B, B to C? Are all the parties vetted? Has escrow already been opened? Do you have your title company already in play? There's a lot of different moving parts to this. So I can't answer all these questions right now, but there again, so it may be 100%, it may be 200%.
right.
It may be just it might just be $500. It could be anything at this point.
Yeah, I asked the question out of naivety, whatever the word is there. I'm naive here. I've never borrowed from a gator before, so I
Uh,
don't, I'm not experienced there with that. But I would imagine you're not going to ask for 200% if the deal's not going to make, if the deal doesn't work, if you get paid 200%, right?
yeah, I'm
That
not gonna
makes
get
sense.
anything if the deal doesn't work, so it
Yeah,
doesn't really
yeah,
matter.
so yeah, it wouldn't make sense to over ask.
Right.
Yeah, I appreciate you kind of letting me into that world a little bit because, like I said, I haven't. Oh, this isn't a question that I've asked anybody else either. When you're looking at Gator deals, are they typically wholesale deals, or are you lending? Would you lend EMD for a flip, or somebody that's figuring out how to hold the property?
I can, excuse me. It depends on the deal. It depends on the borrower and what they're looking for and at. Um, Technically, I can lend it to a person who is going to purchase the home and live in it. Um, is that something I want to do? Probably not. But yeah, I could, but it's just another way that it could be done. It, I think the biggest point about Gator is that there are so many circles that are intertwined, or like Venn diagrams, right? They just keep growing and growing and growing. And it's almost mind-boggling the amount of effort and time that it takes a person to think about, go, yeah, that could happen. That could happen. We could do that. So yeah, and again, it's just one of those things where you go, okay, sure. If if the contract's right, the terms are right, sure, it could happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, Chris.
No, that's
I,
fine. Yeah.
I have
Listen.
a question I pretty much asked everybody at this point is, are there any books, podcasts, documentaries that you've read, watched, listened to that have inspired you or really push you over the edge to like jump into real estate, anything like that?
I think the pretty standard answer here is Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think. And it's been a while and I need to reread it. And then the most recent one that I haven't, I'm about that far from finishing, is Wealth Without Cash by Pace.
Yeah.
And it's actually really good. It gives an insight into creative finance, and it he basically it says even if you're a knucklehead like me, I can do this, so why can't you? It's not quite that bold, but
Yeah.
basically it is. So that's
Yeah. It's again, I don't want to, I'm not trying to badmouth anybody that, but we're not all the brightest people. We're not dumb by any means, but like, we're not freaking Einstein or, Elon Musk or anything. It doesn't take a whole lot. You just gotta work at it slowly. The puzzle, the pieces come together and you start seeing the big picture. And now you're confident enough to jump in and do a deal or, partner up with somebody. It just takes time and effort and focused intentional focused time to learn
for
and
sure.
run it and be comfortable enough to kind of jump in. And like you're saying, you know, you're talking to agents, right? And you're doing an hour, 2 hours a day. Well, maybe within the first week, you're still going to be sweating every time the phone rings. And maybe it takes a month of you making phone calls to be comfortable enough to not go, oh, I'm trying to call about
Sometimes it still
yeah,
happens.
and it still is gonna happen. Yeah, you're gonna get somebody who's a jerk to you on the phone, and it's gonna fluster you, and you're gonna have to take a breather before your next phone call, and just take a beat, and then, okay,
Right.
he didn't reach to the phone and didn't choke me or anything. I'm fine. It's just they just hung up on me. But yeah, I got sidetracked there.
For sure, for sure.
um, I appreciate you being on, Chris. I want to make sure that whoever out there is listening and wants to reach out to you, maybe to bring you a deal to vet, to ask for, EMD from you or anything like that, or just wants to be part of your connector network, what's the best ways to reach you? Uh, oh, there's a website, courtyarddfw.com. Okay, and I see your Instagram tag. Is that Instagram?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. At Drumm 5146.
I will link those in the description. Any parting words for the listeners out
Look, everybody's gonna mess up. Everybody does their own thing. And I think the biggest part about being a business person is give yourself grace. If you continue down the path that you think you're going to go, um, you're going to get there. It doesn't matter. It's like a train. The train's going down the tracks. And unless something really, really, really catastrophic happens, the train's going to continue to go down those tracks, right? So there may be delays, there may be issues, there may be some problems, but the train's not coming off the tracks. So give yourself some grace if there's a delay, if there's an issue, if there's a holdup, if there's a breakdown, it's okay. You're going to continue going down those tracks and you're going to be fine.
You don't have to be a bullet train here. You can be just a slow freight train, just chugging along.
Yeah, you'll be fine. It's
Yeah,
all good. It's all good.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for being here, man. We're gonna talk again soon, and I hope somebody reaches out to you for some EMD here.
I appreciate it.
Later, brother.
Thanks, Nathaniel.